On behalf of the many thousands who will be viewing this amazing exhibit and visiting your community over the next several days, I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to all of you who made this possible. When I was asked to open this historic event on the eve of the 40th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War, I was overwhelmed by the sheer honor to stand before the many veterans here tonight and the many more listed on that wall who I greatly respect and admire. But to be honest, I had many sleepless nights wondering if I was the right person to receive this honor. I was born in 1968 during the peak of the Vietnam War, the same year the Russians launched the Tet Offensive. What can I possibly say about a war I never experienced? What can I say never having seen combat at all? What do I know about the political, social, and economic unrest of that time that stirs so many emotions even today? I will readily admit that I am no expert on the Vietnam War, so I will not be speaking about a time or events of which I have no firsthand knowledge. I will not be regurgitating facts that you already know, and I most certainly will not stand up here tonight and tell you that I know what our heroes from the Vietnam War went through, because I simply don't. What I hope to convey on this historic night is how the heroes sitting before me and whose names are on that wall have shaped an entire generation. I am a son of the Vietnam era. And tonight, my message will be a simple message of love, honor, and respect from my generation to all of you heroes who sacrificed for a nation divided so I could live in a nation united. My message will be a simple message of gratitude from all of us who were born in the shadows of your greatness. Before I share that message, there are a few very special people I'd like to recognize. None of this would be possible without Connie and Mike Kennedy, founder and director of the Journey Home Veterans Program here in Winchester. It all began on October 1st of 2014 when Bridget Schwab Ashley reminded Connie and Mike that 2015 would mark the 40th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. Bridget felt strongly that Winchester should do something special to honor the heroes of the Vietnam War. Bridget's uncle, the late Butch Schwab, was one of those heroes, so this weekend is very personal to Bridget. Multitudes of gracious volunteers joined Mike and Connie with their time, talent, and money to make it all possible. Darla Bowman, Chris Garrett, Ted Martin, Deborah Henning, Dwight Albright, Mike Thorne, Kathy Bond, Bill Yost, and Jim Wacker. Although the wall honors our Vietnam veterans, it is the hope of these coordinators and volunteers that the many events over the next few days will pay tribute to all veterans and all members of military families as we collectively acknowledge their service and thank them for preserving the freedoms upon which this great nation was founded. My thanks to all of you who have made this possible. In 1986, like many of you, I made a life-changing decision to join the United States Air Force and was assigned to my first and what would become my last station at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in Dayton, Ohio. Wright-Patterson at the time was largely a civilian and officer workforce. I was one of the first enlisted classes to work in a particular unit at Wright-Patterson. Our unit was led by a Vietnam veteran. My direct supervisor was a Vietnam veteran. And the person who trained and mentored me throughout my entire career was a Vietnam veteran. Over the course of the next 4 years, my work ethic, values, and discipline were shaped by these 3 men, all of whom I consider friends to this very day. As life goes on, I don't see them often enough, but their legacy will be embedded in my heart forever and will be passed on to future generations. For the first year of my assignment, all of my questions about the Vietnam War were met with silence, avoidance, but mostly profound annoyance. It is not difficult to understand why veterans of this war are hesitant to open up about their experiences. Slowly, over the years, as we became closer, one by one, they began to open up to the stories of horror, fear, confusion, and the pain inflicted upon them during this war. But none of that compared to the feelings of abandonment when they returned home. Over the years, I listened intently to story after story, many times the story ending with me having to excuse myself to gather my emotions away from these real-life heroes. These stories were stored in my memory when on one such occasion, they all came flooding back. I was watching the HBO series Band of Brothers about Easy Company from the Second World War. In one of the most riveting scenes from the series, you see Easy Company packed like animals, riding in the back of a truck, driving towards the front lines. When their orders came down, there was no time to grab winter clothes. Very few had weapons, and ammunition was scarce. These young men were on the doorsteps of the most violent battle in history, lacking the most basic necessities. Yet the only thing on their minds was victory. The truck stops a few kilometers outside of Bastogne, and the men quickly jump out and form 2 columns for their march into the city. 1 column on each side of the main road. You could see their breath in the freezing air as they marched on with determination. All of a sudden, in the distance came a sea of defeated American troops fleeing the front line in disarray. Many had thrown away their rifles, their coats, all encumbrances. They were in a panic, staggering, exhausted, shouting, "Run, run." They have everything: tanks, machine guns, air power, everything. The members of Easy Company looked at them with disgust as they stripped the soldiers of every coat, helmet, and rifle they could get their hands on. The camera closes in on Easy Company, still standing in 2 columns in the middle of the road, looking back at the thousands of retreating soldiers, wearing a look of disbelief on their faces. The 2 columns slowly turn to stand face to face, looking directly into the eyes of their brother in complete silence, taking in what they had just seen and heard. At that moment, no words were necessary. They knew the brother standing in front of them would gladly give up their life, and they would do the same. Suddenly, Lieutenant Winters screams out, "Easy Company, roll out." They turn toward Bastogne and begin their lonely march as the music fades with the silhouettes of retreating soldiers vanishing in the background. As I watched that gripping and emotional scene, I had tears rolling down my face and I didn't know why. my mind had retreated to my conversations about the Vietnam War, wondering if that scene somehow embodied how every Vietnam War vet felt. Fighting a war that was politically impossible to win. At every turn, people were running away from them. The media, politicians, friends, family, the whole world. And yet they stood on the front lines in the heat of battle, all alone, standing face to face with their brother who would gladly give up their life for them, and they would do the same. Ladies and gentlemen, if you ever want to know what it means to be a hero, turn and look into the eyes of a Vietnam veteran. But don't be surprised if they turn to that wall and say that those were the heroes. When the architectural design for this wall was made public, it was rife with controversy and outrage, a natural extension of the war itself. Most of the outrage was from veterans who felt this was just one more insult hurled at those who answered the call of duty. A simple wall listing only the names of those who paid the ultimate sacrifice. There would be no towering statue recognizable from miles away. No sacred site weaving through a park with guided tours. No grand museum constructed with the finest marble. No, it would be a wall that stands alone and embodies the spirit of everyone who served in Vietnam. The beauty of that wall rests in its imposing simplicity, which is the greatest tribute to all of the veterans it represents, who were known for their imposing simplicity. There was no fanfare when they returned home like in past wars. No TV deals, no elected presidents, no fame and fortune. They were called, they served, and they returned with their heads held high, with imposing simplicity. How fitting is it for this memorial to have a mirror-like finish. The first time I visited the Vietnam Memorial, I am standing in front of a name I know, with tears streaming down my face. The name begins to fade, and my reflection comes into full view. The tears begin to flow more freely, as if that memorial is telling me, by my reflection, that the names on this wall freely died for me, a son of the Vietnam generation. As you visit this incredible wall over the next few days, I would encourage you to touch it like they have touched so many of us. And if you happen to know one of the fallen heroes on that wall, I hope you will permanently etch their name both on paper and in your mind, because they most certainly have etched their name in our hearts. On behalf of a grateful generation, I want to thank our Vietnam veterans who shaped my life and so many more. By your humble service, I wish each of you could look into our hearts, because all of the love, respect, and admiration that was not present when you came home is living inside each one of us, and we will continue to pass on your legacy. We will always be eternally grateful to you for shaping our lives. Winchester, Indiana, I thank you for bringing 4 generations together for this noble purpose. And I thank you all for making the dream of a few become the reality for the many. And now it's my privilege to officially open this commemorative event on this 30th day of April, 2015. God bless you all, and God bless America.